So, welcome, Lee.
Thank you, Darren. Nice to see you.
And you. So, how have you been during the pandemic?
Yeah. It's quite a lot of stuff doesn't change for me because football obviously carries on. And when football carries on, that means they need to get people to talk about it. So, fortunately for me, I'm lucky as well. I still get to go to the games and commentate from live position. So, I've watched a lot of football over probably like everybody else, but they're watching it from the TV. But we're lucky enough to be able to go to the games. But other than that, just trying to stay safe and by the rules and stay out of people's way and stay in the house. I haven't been out much other than going to football matches, really.
hmm So, you're sort of keeping busy as much as possible.
Trying to, yeah, doing the odd podcast and the odd chat to
I
people
wonder,
like
I wonder, I
yourself.
wonder who you're with. So my first question, obviously, the big game that I play a lot and a lot of people play as well is FIFA, and you've been doing it since
Yeah,
2018. Was it? Am I correct on that one?
yeah, 18. Yeah, because it's
Yeah,
always a year. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I've been doing it for 3 years, so we've just done FIFA 21, yeah, which was out. Yeah, so 3 years. Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
Seems
Um,
like about 10.
I was going to say it's been a while, sort of doing it.
Yeah.
So obviously you work alongside Derek, but you obviously did with Martin and obviously Alan Smith, who we know as Smudge.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
how did it all start off? How did you begin with it?
Well, I got a call from my agent saying we've an inquiry about your availability for a video game. So that was about as much as we got. And then you're kind of thinking, well, what video games are out there? Because I don't play not played video games since my kids were kids, and they're 32 and 30 now. So I'm not a big player of video games. Last time I played a video game, it was an Atari Indiana Jones game, which you probably won't have even heard of. You're too young. I'm not a big game player. But I obviously knew about FIFA, and when she said, "Oh, it's FIFA FIFA game," so I was like, "Oh wow, that's pretty big stuff," because I obviously know a lot of young people, and virtually all of them play it. So I was excited. I had to go for a sound check and basically an audition. You have to audition for it. They got a certain number of people. I don't know who the other people were who auditioned for it, but my name got pushed forward. So I went along to a sound studio in Covent Garden. A little bit nervous because I wasn't too sure what I what it entailed really. I obviously knew it was commentary based, but so I met the guys there who were really nice sound guy, producer, and and my agent was there as well. So we had a chat. I said, "Look, we like what you're doing on commentary with NBC, quite heavily based around obviously American commentary. They hear me a lot, and it's a Canadian company, so they knew about me on the because a lot of people here obviously only see me on ITV. Now I do the England games, and I've been with ITV for 8 years now. So you see me on the England games. Used to be more studio based, but now I've moved over to the co-coms for the England games. That's probably the only place you'll see me in the UK. I do a bit of radio for BBC Five Live, but most of my TV stuff is in America with NBC. So they obviously knew about me, and I've been commentating for them for 6 years now. So um, once I got in the studio, it was right. How does this work? And they gave me a couple of scripts, a couple of examples of lines that I would have to say, and the actual variety of stuff that you have to do for FIFA is endless. It really is an awful lot of different scenarios based on. I mean, because you play the game, so if you can kind of separate yourself from the excitement of playing and listen to what the lines are being said and how the computer and the algorithms and all far beyond pay scale to be able to understand it, but how the lines are picked out of the computer just by you moving your thumb and pressing a button, and that specific line comes out, and it's magical how it works. And a little bit daunting when you realise how much content there is. And also, we were starting a new game, a new part of the game, which was obviously Champions League. So you're starting from scratch. So they haven't got one word of me or Derek on a recording. So you're starting right from the start. So the amount in the first year that you have to lay down in order to get a game at the end of, because we finished recording, it has to be finished by September in order to get released in time for Christmas, etc., and edit it and all that. So there's a big process after we've done the recordings. So a huge amount of content, and that first year was pretty tough. You know, it was 15 to 17 days in the studio. You can't obviously do them too close together because they've got to be edited, but also it's a voice thing as well. You are hammering your voice. You're in the studio from 10 in the morning till probably about 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And you're sharing the commentary with Derek's doing his lines, and then I'm doing mine. Sometimes we work together, sometimes it's just me, sometimes I'm coming off the back of what Derek said, sometimes the lines are linked, so whatever he says I respond to him. Sometimes they're separate so they can add other lines to what I mean, it's hugely complicated, but so I fluked the audition somehow, you know, blagged my way through it, and sure enough, a couple of weeks later, they said, right, we'd really like to go ahead with, and I was thrilled, you know, and I didn't really realise the impact of FIFA until I started telling people, and I wasn't allowed to tell anyone for a good while because they like to keep the new game a bit of a secret, and it gets released, and so it's a bit of a marketing thing. So, you know, the fact that me and Derek were new, once I started telling people, the response from not so much people like my age, because you know, it's like, FIFA, what's that, you know, but certainly, you know, my son's strength and conditioning coach within the FA does quite a lot of work with a lot of the youth setup at in the England setup, and also the Lionesses as well, and certainly a lot of the younger teams, when they finish training and they're on camp, you know, my son said basically they go back to their rooms and just play FIFA all day. You know, it's like that's what young pro footballers do in the afternoon. So you know, it's a lot of interest. Everyone was, oh wow, you're doing FIFA. It's, you know, I was like, oh right, it's quite a big thing. So and you obviously know, being an avid player yourself, the fact that you've changed your name to FIFA, Darren, is just brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, I play it often enough. So obviously with Derek has his way of remembering all the names of these players. Do you have a specific way? Because you have like the long foreign names, you have like different names. How do you remember all of them?
Well, luckily for me, if you actually listen to, well, you do listen because you play it a lot, but I never say anybody's name. I know my that's all Derek's commentating, so he has to do all the names, which is, I cannot tell you how laborious that is, because when I go into the studio at 10 o'clock, obviously this is all changed because of COVID. We had to be separate, and Derek lives in Boston. So he normally flew over to London, and then we'd do 3 days together, and then he'd fly back or go and do some commentary in the Bundesliga because he works in German football. But obviously COVID changed all that. So we did it remotely, just me in a studio, him in his studio, separate times. So just going off each other's lines and being told by the producer what to do next. But Derek would normally, if I was going in at 10 o'clock, he'd have been in since 8:30. In the booth on his own with his microphone, his headphones on, just going through every single way of saying Ozil's name. You know, I mean, there's so many different ways you can say Ozil in game context. Like if he's passing a ball just square, you'd go Ozil. and if it's an exciting pass over the top, oh, Özil, so different ways of using your voice. And he has to say it every single way that the game would be used in. And then he has to do that for every single player in the Champions League. It is, honestly, he has a script like that. When I go in, he's just got his head down and he's just going, Özil, 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 Özil. And then he turns a page and he does somebody else's name. And it's just, he's worn out by the time I get to him.
Yeah, because whenever I play it, I hear that. Obviously, when I do my lovely long shots on FIFA that YouTube gets shocked about, I hear it, it's like, oh, it's very sort of realistic how you two do it because it's so like you're there.
Yeah. I mean, we obviously, people say to me, do you have clips that you can watch and then commentate over, and they use that? And we don't have any live or any moving pictures to look at. We don't have anything. We have we don't even have a computer in front of us. We basically have a script, and that's it. And the script it's not scripted as in we're told what to say. I'm sure Derek's explained the way that it will be a scenario of what's happening in the game, and then it will give you one example of the commentary that might be said for that. And so it'll be a Derek line followed by what I would say. But that's a loose generalization of maybe you want to say it in this. And I kind of know what I would say in that scenario. So they'll say, right, it's they might say it's late in the game. Somebody, the striker, or they won't even say striker because it might not be. They'll just say players in the box at an angle. He shoots. He should hit the target. So you kind of get a picture of where he is in the box because you say, right, he's at an angle, probably about 10, 12 yards out. He shoots across to the far post, and the keeper makes a save that he should make. So you kind of get that picture going. He's not missed a big chance. It's a decent effort. And then, so your commentary has to be, Derek will say what's happened, and then I come on the back and colour it in like I would do. And then, so you do that line. They might give you an example. You might want to say this, but you don't normally use that line because it's not your own sort of voice and your own thinking. So you go, oh, I get the picture. And then you do your line, and then underneath it, it'll say times 10. And you look at it and you go, and then you literally have to do 10 more or 9 more different lines straight off the bat. So there's no messing about. You're in the studio for 5-6 hours. You haven't got time to. There's so much content to do. You can't be sitting there going, oh, I don't know what to say now. What am I going to say now? Because the sound guy's going, right, give me another one. And you go, da, da, da. Give me another. So by the end of the day, you are absolutely exhausted. And some of the lines are sitting down with Derek pre-game. So it's a Champions League final. You're sitting in the booth upstairs. The players are coming out onto the pitch. The crowd are going mad, and we just come on air as if we're on the TV. And so me and Derek are chatting away, talking about what an amazing stadium. This is what the training's all about. So you've got a big long chat to do. So you might do 5 or 6 of them, and they're not one-liners. They're interacting, chat, and then they go, okay, give us another one. It's like that, chat. So at the end of the day, you just go home. It's like, oh, it's absolutely exhausted, but it's great fun. And the goal celebrations and the goals and the high tempo stuff is good fun as well. But it wrecks your voice. It really does.
So is it more relaxed as doing that as it is doing normal commentary, or is it more balanced?
FIFA's harder than normal because in obviously live commentating, you've got things to react off, you've got things to look at, you've got your co-com next to you who's looking at different stuff, so you can you've got a visual to feed your brain with information. With FIFA, you've got a piece of paper and you've got a microphone and you've got a bloke in the sound booth through a glass window and a producer looking at you going, we need another line. And you're like, the pressure is like, but having said that, if you make a mistake, it doesn't go live to millions of people. So there's a different pressure with live football, but it's definitely easy. If you ask me which one would you rather do, I'd rather do a live game, obviously. But FIFA is good fun, but it's a very pressurized environment for 15 days of the year, and then you kind of come out the other end, and then you see, the joy that it brings to the likes of yourself who played a game. The response, and also the funny bit about it is that you can go on Twitter and listen to everybody slagging you off and going, why do you, Dixon's just had a go at my striker? And it's like, somebody said I never forget it, somebody said something on Twitter about I was having a go at somebody was offside or something, and I came in and goes, he should never, he didn't look along the line, or he did whatever it was. And this bloke was having a go at me on Twitter saying, can't believe Lee Dixon didn't, it's like, and I sent him on back going, this isn't live. It's not live. I'm not sitting in your living room playing with you, playing the game with you. I said, it's all recorded. It's almost like he was having a go at me because he didn't see what I saw, what he saw on the. It's crazy.
Well, actually, you've actually just answered my question, because that's my next question. Do you get a lot of, because you get critics, whatever you do, but you must get like the odd, I want to say stupid, but like the daftest comments. What has been the daftest? How do you respond to that?
Well, that was the funniest one. The bloke who thought I was sitting next to him, and he couldn't understand how I was saying it was offside, and he could see that it wasn't offside, and it was almost like I was sitting in the room with him, which I guess is testament to how realistic the game is, that you can get so wrapped up in it that you can believe it's true, and I'm actually commentating on what you're doing. And you have to obviously remember, when you get a little bit critical, is that I'm not commentating on what you're doing. I've commentated on the line 10 months ago, and the computer has decided. So if there's any glitches in the software, and the software is second to none, but you do get the odd glitch, you do get the odd. I remember somebody I think it might have been FIFA 19, or there was a goal that Ronaldo scored. The ball came in and he back-heeled it, and he went straight in the top corner. This guy did a back heel and he went in the top corner with Ronaldo. And my commentary, the computer pulled out why, I don't know, said me going, well, he didn't catch it quite right. It's not the best goal he's ever scored. And it was almost a derogatory line based on the fact he's just back-heeled it straight. And the guy, people was having a go at me for that. No, it wasn't my fault. I didn't choose that line. The computer chose it. I mean, it doesn't happen very often, but you have to understand that it's it is a game. But it's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I mean, some of the the visuals and the graphics and the it's just I can't comprehend how they do it and how it all works. I'm just a very small cog in that machine.
I must admit, I am guilty for game raging.
Slagging me off.
No, not much. No, but it's like, I think some people do forget that you're not actually in the living room. So I said you must get, and Derek as well, you both must get a lot of it. So
you tend to get more negative than positive, but that is just what Twitter's about anyway. Yourself, you get on there. If you go on Twitter, you open yourself up to criticism, whatever. But it doesn't bother me. I know that I'm doing the best job I can, and most people think it's good. Most people like my commentary in live games as well. And until the bosses turn around and say, well, you've made a mistake or you've done this, you just get on with your job. You do it as best you can.
Yeah. So have you got a specific favourite line that you say? Because mine with you has to be, look out for the line, or he's fluffed his lines. I've got to admit, that does wind me up when I get that. It's like, I wasn't, but
see, in the first year that you record it, there's only a certain amount of lines that we've recorded. So you tend to get a lot of repeat lines because the computer goes, right, he's missed a good chance. And so I will have recorded, I don't know, 10 to 15 lines that kind of replicate that. He's through on goal and he's missed a chance. So I would probably say, oh, he's fluffed his lines. And so, but the computer, because he's only got so many to pick from, and you play the game a lot, it will get picked a lot because you're playing all the time. So you tend to get repetitive lines. As the game gets fuller, so after 3 years now, we've got, I don't know, 50 of those lines instead of 10. So it doesn't happen as often. But I do remember saying those things. I mean, normally, yeah, he's fluffed his lines, or it'd be one that comes up that I would say naturally. So with the thing with you've got so many to do, you end up forcing, because you need 15 lines the same, you end up forcing a line in there that you perhaps wouldn't say in real life because it doesn't come up. I won't say that he's fluffed his lines hardly ever in commentary because it doesn't come up that often, and if it does, I've got time to think. So that would probably be a line that's forced a little bit. But in the end, Darren, it's a game. It's not real.
Don't tell me that. The amount of times I'm not a bad game rager, but if I've missed a goal like just by a shot, I'm like, and then I've got you and Derek going, "Oh, you missed it." I was like, "I know."
Yeah, I guess that's when we get most of our stick is when a bad chance is missed and something. So because you've missed it, it's a bit like that in real time. The last thing you need when you've missed an open goal, when Ian Wright used to miss a goal, I used to always give him a load of stick because I knew it wound him up, and it would make him, and I'd go, well, I can't believe you missed that, right? And he'd be like,
Trust me, if you watch any of my, I'll have to show you some of my Twitch lives because you'll see what I'm like. This isn't the normal.
I'm not sure I'm ready for that.
So what's it like working with Derek himself? Because obviously I've spoken to Derek myself. He's obviously a really nice guy. What's he like to work with?
Well, I've worked with Derek a couple of times, I think, on commentary, and I'm trying to remember when it was. It might have been at NBC early years when Arlo was doing a game and we maybe needed another commentator. So I always remember how much of a sweet bloke he was and how well we got on. We always had a laugh when we did commentary. And at the end of the day, if you can do your work, be informative, be coherent, enjoy it, and have a laugh with your commentator, but still the game be the most important thing. You can be the other way. You can have too much of a laugh and the game becomes irrelevant. You start going off and telling stories about stuff that's not relevant. The art of good commentating and co-coms is, I've always thought about it. If you can commentate as if you're chatting with your mate down the pub or at a game and talking about it in that sort of way, very relaxed but be informed or informative, I think you get the best out of both the commentator and the co-com, and Derek's brilliant for that. He's very generous with his broadcasting, and with that I mean he will bring you into conversation because the commentator's talking most of the time. He's giving you information about the names of the players, he's being informative in that way. And then on replays and when something's happened, then obviously it's my job to come in and give my insight, my football insight into what I think's happened. And if you can get the balance between the two of being very chatty in that way, and he does bring you in on points. I mean, there's some commentators you work with and you just go, he's not a generous commentator. It's and I won't name names. It's all about him. He's the commentator and you're kind of sitting there and sort of popping a word in every now and again when you can get one in. I don't think that works. I think to be able to be balanced, and I think with Derek, certainly we found that in live commentary that I felt I really enjoyed working with him. And
Mm.
so when I knew he was the commentator for FIFA, it was brilliant. I said, well, we'll just crack on, and we have an absolute laugh and a ball when we're in the studio, because I've normally got this thing where I talk about teams as well, so I don't talk about players' names, but I will mention teams. We'll be talking about Arsenal, Man United. Oh, we're here at Old Trafford, the semi-final, the Champions League, blah 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 blah. So every time, and it became a thing. Every time we did anything about Tottenham, I would always start the line as if I'm doing it normally. I go, and here we are at White Hart Lane. And no, Derek would say, here we are, Lee, at White Hart Lane. What are your memories of playing here? And I'd go, well, Tottenham, very, very tough game to play in. And then I would go off on one and be stupid and let's say loads of swear words and go, I can't believe we're back at this. What, you can imagine the word I'd use about their stadium back in the day and all this. So I'd be really derogatory about them. And then, so the sound guy and the recording would be recorded. They must have a tape back in head office of me slagging Tottenham off on a million occasions, and it just became a bit of a laugh. And so we do have fun when we're doing it. It's been a roller coaster of 3 years doing it, but I think me and Derek have. This last year has been difficult because we've not worked together for obvious reasons. We've done the whole game. I think we might have done 1 or 2 days recording together, and the rest was all done obviously in isolation, and he was in Boston in his recording. Did he tell you about his recording place he's got in his house, which is basically his cupboard? He sits in a cupboard and he's got all his clothes around him, and the clothes acts as a soundproofing little cubby hole. He's got all his recordings, his microphone, and so whenever he goes upstairs and he sits in his cupboard, he's working, and he did it from there.
See, when you say cupboard, I'm thinking like Harry Potter under the stairs. That's why I've got that image of it.
That's what, absolutely, that's it. That's who he is, Harry Potter of FIFA.
So, is there any sort of plans of maybe doing the next one? Are you looking to do the next?
Hopefully, we don't know yet. We go from year to year. So at the moment, we're not got any plans to record just yet. So watch this space, I guess.
So is that where you'd be nicer in the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm going to be nice. Yeah, I'm going to be nice in the next one.
Yeah, obviously when I do my long shots, I can just hear like the excitement. Like, yes, that's a long shot. So, I'm proud of those shots.
I haven't seen your long shots, so you'll have to send me some.
Oh, trust me, I'll be sending you some. So obviously you've gone from FIFA and now you're obviously doing the TV commentary, because obviously you started off you did Match of the Day 2, you did Score, Football Focus, then obviously worked for ITV and NBC. What got you interested in doing the media? Because obviously you didn't go down the route of the manager after you played.
No, well, when I retired, I was doing a little. Before I was retired, sort of 2000 onwards, I was doing Football Focus and the odd TV thing, and then I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing it. If I was injured or I wasn't in the team, I would do a Saturday morning with Focus, and it was fun. And so I thought, when I retired at 2002, I thought I'll carry on, do a bit of TV, and then see if I miss the day-to-day being in the game day-to-day. And I found, that was 2002, and that was like 19 years ago. So it was kind of, it sort of carried on, and I did more TV, and I didn't miss being involved in the game as much as I thought on a day-to-day basis. So I do miss it. I miss it incredibly, but I just wanted a bit of time away from because it's a 24-hour job being a footballer. Yes, we get a lot of time when we're not training, but I was very dedicated. Not saying that players are not dedicated, but that was my life. So I dedicated it to playing football for 20 years. And so if I wasn't training, I was thinking about training, or I was working out who I'm playing against on the Saturday, whom I got, how did I play last week. So I was always thinking about the game, and it's, I'm making sure that I was having enough rest, I was eating right, I was sleeping in the afternoons, I was checking my body all the time, making sure my knee, I had trouble with my knee and my ankle, and I was just managing myself. And it's tiring, so when I retired, it was like, can I do that? Can I go back in and be a coach for 6-7 days a week? Which is, if you're involved in the first team, if you're a first team coach, it's 24/7. You're in, and if the players are off, you as a coach are not off. You're planning the next sessions for the next day. You're watching videos. You're doing, and I just needed a break from that. I'd like to. I think there's a bit of me that misses that. Although I've got probably the second best job in the world, working for TV and watching the games and still being involved in the game, still know a lot of people at Arsenal, still got a reasonable profile that people know who I am. So I get to do some cool stuff work-wise. But there's part of me misses interacting with players. And so if there was a part-time, 1 day a week sort of fullback coaching role somewhere, I love fullbacks. I love, although the fullback game has changed a lot since I was playing, to a certain extent. I mean, people, you see, you've got me at it now. When I hear people say that about, the fullback roles changed and all this, and I could sit down and argue that point all day long about the way that formations have changed, and the fullbacks are now the sexy position to play in. And when I was playing, no one wanted to play fullback. It's but there was, there's a lot of similarities to the modern day fullback now that we used to do, playing wing backs and playing wide fullbacks with a back four when you've got a dropping midfield player coming in. And it's not there's only so many positions you can be in on a football pitch. So, but I'd quite like the educational side of teaching. I think that's why I enjoy the pundit side, is because I do enjoy explaining stuff on TV. I'm not saying explaining to people who don't know. What I'm saying is explaining what I know about what's happening there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's the truth or that's what you've got to do. I don't think being a pundit is about that, because if you're enforcing your opinion on to somebody else who might, just because they haven't played 619 games for Arsenal, doesn't mean to say they don't know the game or they don't know a position. Or it's just in certain situations when I highlight stuff on a screen and say, well, I think he should have done this, this, and this. That's what I would have done, and that's the benefit of my insight. And that's all I can do as a pundit, is say, yeah, I could be wrong. I've had arguments, thousands of arguments with players about different things positionally that they've been taught, that I had a different teaching that I believe differently. And that's what it's all about. It's all about opinions. But I do enjoy that side of things.
Yeah. So obviously you say about that, but obviously sitting next to the likes of Roy Keane, who's quite opinionated with his words. How do you get on with Roy Keane off screen? Because obviously as I said, he's quite opinionated. He's quite strong and passionate about what he says. Is there sort of that? Is it like that off screen, or is it just a clash of opinions with you guys?
No, he's actually very, very good company. He's, as you said, he's got his own thoughts about all sorts of things, not just on football. His life, his opinions on all sorts of different walks of life as well. Very strong-willed. He brought up in a very strict family. He's got quite a few siblings. So in Cork, and his way is what he believes is right, and he's got a lot of really good family values. Talking about football, he will talk all night long, all day long the next day. He knows he's a football, for want of a better expression, he's a football anorak in as much as he watches a million games a week. He knows every team. He knows who plays left back for Doncaster. He'll know the results of every game the night before. So if you want to chat about football, then he's your man. But I get on great with him. For some unknown reason, we get on really well. I think we respect each other. We have a laugh. We've worked together a lot. He knows what I'm about. I know what he's about. He's got his set ways, how he responds to things, but his box office, because he will say it as it is, and that's a real asset to have in TV. If you can speak the unspeakable and say what you believe, and stick to it, which is what he does, then he gets my respect from that point of view. We've clashed. There's no doubt about that. We've had clashes on screen. We've had clashes off screen. On tournaments when we've been away together, we'll have a difference of opinion on something and we'll argue our points, but there's never any follow on from that the next morning. You just get on with, I guess, I'd like to call him a friend of mine, which is, not, I don't suppose many people can say that, a friend of Roy Keane's, but he's a definite one-off, that's for sure.
So obviously now you're working with alongside Arlo White and Graham, who's your ex-enemy on the pitch. I remember that.
Yeah.
Foul, I remember that foul he did at you on one of the games. Yeah, I remember that game very well. What's it like working with those two? Obviously, doing the commentary.
Yeah, it's a brilliant. We've got an absolutely top class team at NBC. The English side of the pond. We've got Arlo, Graham, and myself. And me and Graham, I've spent, as you said, I've spent 15 years kicking lumps out of him. He kicked me a couple of times, but I think I'm up on the kicking score. He was always me and Ray Parler used to take it in turns to give him a whack when the ball was around there somewhere. So we doubled up on him. He didn't like it. And I've always had a lot of respect for Graham, even before we started working together, because he's got his own thoughts. He's very strong-minded. He's very set in his belief systems, and he sticks up for himself. And I've got a huge amount of respect for him. And since then, we've become really good friends. And really quite close to Graham in that respect. We talk a lot. We see each other a lot. We do a lot of three-man booths, which is me and him and Arlo in the commentary box together. So on the big games, we tend to be three of us. But we speak regular, and he's a really good, different sort of commentator, co-com to me, which is perhaps why we work together. I'm a little bit more, what's the word? I was going to say brutal, but it's the wrong word. I say it how it is a little bit more than he will. He will give a different type of opinion to. I'm quite harsh at times, I think, but I only want, I'm harsh because I know. I'm harsh because I guess I just want the best for the player involved, whether it be whoever it is. I don't care about, obviously Arsenal's my team, but it doesn't really matter. I just kind of want the player to do the best he can, because I know how difficult it is. And sometimes I'm maybe a bit harsh on players, but I think I'm balanced. Graham's a little bit less harsh and sees it from a different way, and I think that's why we work. And Arlo's just Arlo. He's an amazing commentator. Did a lot. I knew Arlo's name because he's got quite an unusual name for years ago when he did the commentary for the test matches on cricket on 5 Live. He was always Arlo White. Oh yeah, I know that name. And then when the team was put together over 6 years ago, the guy at NBC said, "Oh, the commentator's going to be Arlo White," and I was like, "Is that the cricket guy?" And he's like, "Well, he's been doing a lot of football in the MLS, and he's now back in England." And so me and him hit it off straight away because I'd worked with him at Five Live before on a Monday night club. I didn't even realise. And I went, "Oh yeah, you're that guy," because I think somebody was ill and he stepped in. So we have worked together before, and he's a brilliant commentator, and I think got a really good style about him. And we have a laugh. We sit down and we try to have a laugh talking about the Premier League in the US, which is, phenomenal success. They love the Premier League over there. They've been really, really pleased with the coverage from NBC. We love doing it, and long may it continue.
Yeah, I must admit, I enjoy listening to you because you have that banter between the three of you, and that's what I think
We
is
try, yeah.
it's quite refreshing because a lot of the time you get some commentators like they'll just talk and that's it, whereas you three seem to have that sense of humour within the commentary as well, which is always fun to hear. So
Yeah, we actually do sometimes forget that we're being broadcast out to millions of people, and that can be a bit scary at times when you forget that you're actually talking to people in because all I see the game, I see Arlo and I see Graham, and we've got headphones on, and sometimes it's quite easy to go, just forget. And I think getting that relaxed feeling is a good thing, as long as you've got a little bit of edge in it as well, to realize that you are broadcasting to millions of people. But it's a different broadcasting in America. There is a different skill to it, because you've got a lot of people watching. There's obviously a lot of expats and English people and Welsh, Scottish, Irish, all watching from the States, who know the game a little bit. It's intrinsic to them growing up, so it's in their blood. And I think you've just got to broadcast a little bit differently, because there's some things that I would say in the UK, just off the top of my head, say something that maybe in America some of the audience might go, "Well, what are they talking about?" And that happens when I'm watching American football. They're broadcasting to the Americans, and sometimes they'll speak in a way, and I go, "I know the rules of American football. I know how to play it. I watch it quite a lot, but there'll be just a nuance that they're talking about." And I go, "Don't really know that." And I think sometimes that can happen when we're broadcasting to NBC, to the American public, is that you say something. I remember saying in the early days, I said, if a fullback is marking a winger and a winger's getting past him every time, I flippantly said in commentary, "Oh, he's got him on a piece of toast," which to me and everybody I know means, "Oh, he's giving him a roast and he's getting past him all the time." So,
yeah.
And I said it, and my producer in my ear, my boss basically said in my ear, goes, "What does that mean?" I was like, "Oh, right, yeah," and I had to kind of explain it, because it's not something that maybe an American watching would know. I mean, to be fair, a lot of my mates were like, "What are you on about?" But so you have to watch your language in a good way.
So do you have a particular team of the American football that you follow, or?
Yeah, well, I was very, very lucky to go to the Super Bowl last year, and throughout last season, I've always been. My first ever game I went to was I had a place I was staying in LA, and I said to a friend over there, "I want to go to take my son to an American football game. Who's playing?" I was over for 2 weeks, and he said there's no team in LA, and there wasn't at the time. He said San Francisco are on the road somewhere else. Where else? I'm just trying to think. San Diego were away as well. So the only team that was playing at home, which was in the circumference to get reasonably quickly, was Oakland Raiders. And Oakland Raiders were, at the time, this was probably about 5, 6, 7 years ago, I can't remember now. Oakland Raiders was like you don't go to Oakland Raiders unless you're an Oakland Raiders fan, because it's just horrendous. Like the real intimidating atmosphere. They're all a bit wacky up there, and that was what my friend said. And I was like, well, I don't care, I'll go. And we went up there, and he said everyone dresses up and got black wigs on and face paint, and all. I said, oh, it sounds great. And we got there, and it was like, whoa, it was all a bit. Whoa, they're actually it is a little bit out there. But we had a brilliant time. They got whacked. I think they were 0-13 at the time. They just did not win a game not that season, I don't think. But we had a great time. So your first game is normally your team you stay with, you know. So I was like, right, I'm like a Raiders fan. So we had all the T-shirts and Raiders and all that. Then over time, obviously, the Raiders franchise has changed positions. I think they're now in Vegas now, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think. But last year I said to my son, you know, if Raiders and move, I said, I'm going to change my team. I know you're not supposed to change your football team, but I just fell in love with Mahomes at Kansas City Chiefs. He was just like, I just love the way he plays, and no look passing, so halfway through last season, halfway through, like maybe a bit later, I said, and we knew we were going to the Super Bowl because a friend of mine invited me, which was very privileged, me and my son. And I said, right, Kansas City Chiefs, that's the one. We've got to stick with them. And obviously, Dreamland, they got to the Super Bowl and won it. So, in fact, I'm trying to look around for my hat now. I've got the Super Bowl hat. So Mahomes is my man, and obviously he's now got injured, got a concussion this last weekend, and I'm not sure whether he's going to be able to play in the divisional title. So hopefully in 2.5 weeks' time, he'll be fit for the Super Bowl if they get there. But time will tell. So Kansas City Chiefs is the long answer to that question.
Well, I'm a Steelers fan, so you know.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll get over it. Why Steelers?
I think because a few of my friends were sort of taught me into it, so I was like, oh, okay. So I sort of watched a few games, and I was like, oh, these are actually pretty good. So
yeah,
but we'll end that conversation now. So out of all the stadiums that you've visited, before we sort of go on to your career stuff, what was your favourite stadium that you've commentated on? You're not allowed to say Arsenal because that's not allowed.
Probably, I'll have to say the Nou Camp, or the Camp Nou, or whatever you want to call it. And the reason I picked that is because I did a Arsenal-Barcelona game, or Barcelona-Arsenal game, for 5 Live radio, and the TV gantry is really high in the Nou Camp, but the radio gantry is almost not in the stadium. It's so high up. It's basically, if you're looking down at the pitch like this from the TV place, the radio one is kind of up there somewhere. It's right at the top, and there's like these little glass booths at the top that they just go, we haven't got anyone else to put the radio lot, because they're not as important as the telly, so we throw you in these. So we got up to, I can't remember who I was commentating with. It might have been Alan Green, I can't remember. And we got to our spot, and I got my microphone like that, and I was like, I looked down at the pitch, and the players were like this big. I had binoculars to actually see the numbers on the back, because they just looked like all the players looked the same. They were just running around. You could hardly tell one player from the other. So and also that stadium is just an amazing stadium. I'm lucky enough to play there twice maybe. I think you'd remember, wouldn't you, once or twice? I think no, actually might have been only once in Champions League. So to play there was sensational, but to then commentate after, and that high up, and it's probably about the same place as the away fans, but on the other side get put. And if you've ever lucky enough to ever go to a Barcelona game and you're an away fan, you'll know how high they put you, because they just stick you in the gods right up there, and the radio commentary is the same place. So I'm going to go for that.
Well, at least you didn't say Spurs. At least you didn't say that one.
Oh no, couldn't possibly say that. Although I do have to say, no, I don't have to say. I was going to say their new stadium is. I'm not even going to say it. I'm just. It is what it is. It's a new stadium.
We'll
Let's
leave it.
move on.
Let's. So obviously, as your career, you're a Man City fan. How come you went from to Arsenal, not Man City? That's
Well, I was at Man City as a kind of a schoolboy when I was about. God, how old was I? I was only about 13, 14. And I wasn't signed, but I used to train with the schoolboys. And so I was kind of on the edge of the system there. But one of the youth coaches was a friend of my dad's because my dad used to play for City back in the 50s. And he knew a few of the coaches, and they said, "Oh, bring him in. We'll have a look at him." So I've trained in a few of the evenings. I didn't particularly enjoy it. I was out of my depth. Didn't get a good feeling about whether I was going to be able to stay there. I just felt as if it was too big a club and too high a standard at the time. And so maybe that's why they said, we're not sure, we don't think he's going to make it, type of thing. So I left. So I was in the system sort of. And then never from then onwards, my career went on and on and on. And then I obviously got a chance to sign for Arsenal. So, and from me signing for Arsenal, City were never, ever, in that league as far as quality was concerned anyway, because they've spent a lot of time or some years outside of the first division as it was in the Premier League. So, yeah, there was never an opportunity, and there would never be a desire to, because I was obviously one of the best teams around at the time. So why would I go and then play for City? Because I was winning trophies at Arsenal. So yeah, the opportunity never arose really. I used to enjoy playing against him because all my mates were City fans, and we normally beat them. So it was kind of I had a lot of jokes going along with my friends.
so you didn't get much stick back home then.
Yeah, well, my mum and dad weren't too pleased when we beat them every week, but they kind of, can't have it both ways, can you?
That's true. So what was it like when you first obviously entered Highbury? Obviously, when George Graham signed you, stuff. What was it like? Tell us like about your first day there.
Well, I signed on a Tuesday morning, I think, after might have been a Wednesday morning, because I came down to meet George at a service station at Watford Gap to chat over the move, and it all went really badly. I was kind of told what to ask for money wise by my manager at Stoke at the time, who was Mick Mills, suggested that I ask for a certain figure. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have an agent. And when I told George Graham what I wanted, he got out the car and stormed off, thought I was a money grabber. So, and said the deal was off, and I was crying my eyes out, drove back to Stoke, said I'd messed it all up. I wasn't a money grabber. So I phoned, Mick said, phone him up and speak to him. So I phoned him up that night and said, I need to come down and see you again. I don't want to lose this opportunity. So the next day I got a train down to Euston, I think it was, and then came in a taxi, and the taxi pulled outside the marble, the big doors where the marble halls are. And I walked up those steps, and as I opened the door, in fact, the commissionaire, there was always a commissionaire on there with a smartly dressed uniform. He opened the doors for me, and I walked in, and Herbert Chapman was looking straight at me, and the bust of Herbert Chapman. And I looked at him and I went, I'm not leaving until I sign. So, and I went straight to George's office, knocked on the door and said, give me the contract. I'll settle for whatever you've got, he offered me. And he actually offered me a couple of £100 a week more, because he said, I've taken all this time he said, maybe I got you wrong, So I think he was just doing it to test me, and I failed, but I passed in the end. And that was it. They signed that day, and the best bit of biro work I'd ever done, signing that contract.
Because obviously, I said it's the best thing you did, and it was definitely sort of a good thing for Arsenal. But what was your first day training and sort of your first game?
Well, first day training was, I think it was that I came down probably about a week later, maybe a few days later. I can't remember, but it was the winter. It was January, February, so pitches were frozen at London Coney. So we were training at Arsenal. When the pitches were frozen, we used to train, go in the gym, do weights, run round the track or the edge of the pitch at Highbury doing laps, half laps, straights, really hard. I used to call it a fizz day, for physical. So we had a fizz on the Tuesday, and then go in the gym and play five-a-side. They had an indoor gym then, so that was. But I remember walking into the dressing room on that first day, the first team dressing room, because we were training at Highbury, and I opened the door, and David O'Leary was sitting, got up and came over and said, "Welcome aboard." Tony Adams came and said hello. I think John Lukic came over. Alan Smith wandered over, and I was like standing there, like mouth open, going, "Somebody, I'm not a celebrity. Get me out of here." It was one of them. I didn't want to be there. I was just petrified. I was really scared. Thought, what am I doing here? I'm out of my depth. This is really going to go wrong. They all seem like, well, they were all relaxed. They knew what they were doing. It was Tuesday morning. They knew they were going to run, do some weights, go in the gym, da da da. And I was just like, oh, can I just go home? Let me just go home and it'll be fine. But David Rocastle was really nice to me that day. He made sure that got everything I needed, got my kit for me, and we trained. And the lads took the mickey out of me in training, putting it through my legs and nutmegs and making me run after the ball and God knows what. And it was a baptism of fire, I can tell you. But it was, I felt as if I'd been accepted, because I was, the next day's training was as if I'd been there for 10 years. I felt really relaxed, and I've always felt that the club was meant for me. I felt as a natural fit for it. I think at the time the manager was trying to get a bunch of young players that were hungry and had the desire, and I think the fans took to that straight away. They took to the fact that they knew what they were going to get from the team and me. It was hard work. It was, desire, and they accepted that. And then, fortunately, my first full season, we won the league at Anfield. So I guess you get accepted when something like that happens.
Yeah, because obviously we have to talk about Rocky, Dave Rockcastle. What was he like? Because obviously losing him was a huge, it was obviously a sad day. What was he like on and off pitch as a person?
Well, he was a gentleman. He was one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. Always asking how you were, always checking in on you, always helping you off the pitch as much as on it. And he was brilliant to play behind. He certainly made my job, settle me in as a fullback, to have him in front of you, because he just used to run, keep the ball, create chances, help you out defending. So he was a dream for me, and I think I wouldn't have settled half as quickly as I did without him. And I thanked him on virtually every day I went into training. I kind of went, thanks, mate. And he said, no, you'll do for me, because you'll do my running for me. And that's how that team was. It was very much based around youth and hunger and desire, and we all wanted to win for ourselves, but also to stop George shouting at us. We wanted to win as well. So, but there was a real closeness to that group of players, and we're still, we're not in each other's pockets now by any means, but we've got a WhatsApp group, and we kind of make sure everybody's all right on a regular basis. And it's nice to have those people in your life that you've shared so much professional experiences with, but also within that there's a load of personal ones as well, because you get little relationships with different team members. Some are closer than others, but in general we were all pretty close, and it's nice to have that in your life.
Yeah. Because because obviously I was too young to know sort of more about Rocky, so it's nice to hear
Yeah.
people talk about him as much as they do, because obviously working alongside him and playing alongside him.
Mm.
Um, but before we go on to the 89 match, I want to ask you about the famous own goal. The the
Which
one
own goal?
the one where you try pass it to David Seaman.
Don't remember it.
No?
Who was that? Oh, the Coventry one.
Yes, the
Well, it
one.
was. Listen. We can talk about my chip over David Seaman all day long if you want, but let's just get it right. That I wasn't. I was the first, but I certainly wasn't the last person to chip it over Dave Seaman's head, was I? So I think you'll find that I started a trend, and Naeem and Ronaldinho probably followed suit because they saw that I'd found a weakness in Dave. That's what I always say anyway. And he always, every time he sees me, he always gives me a dead arm on my arm because for saying things like that. But we're good mates. I mean, Dave's probably my best mate. Well, I say probably, he is my best mate in football, and we've spent many hours together, lying down in our bedrooms, chatting till the middle of the night, chewing the fat because we used to room together. So we've spent an awful lot of downtime together, and also had an amazing career of success with each other. Both not so much success with England, but being in the England squads with him as well was great. We used to room together with England as well. So yeah, we don't room together much now, though, to be honest with you.
No, because the reason I asked that because I want to know what George Graham said to you after that. Because like when you see the video of that,
You said at the start of this, before we started, I couldn't swear. So how can I tell you what George Graham said to me? let me just give you a clue. The first word started with an F.
well,
And
if you swear, I'll just bleep it out. It's fine.
I won't say it, but you can work it out. The first word started with an F, and the second word started with an I, and ended in a T. So there you go. Answers on a postcard.
Okay, so we're going to go on to the 89 match. 'Cause I think that's the one thing I think everyone wants to know about, sort of, especially some of my age.
I've got the shirt here. Look. Oh, hang on. Let me just get the shirt out for you. And the reason why it's on this shelf behind is because I recently moved into a rented house, and this was in a frame in my old house. But I didn't like the frame, so I took it out when I moved. So I threw the frame away, and I took it out, and I've not done anything with it yet. So, so that is, I got it all signed as well after the game. So that's George Graham at the top, and then the rest of the players are obviously all over the place. But the best bit about this is obviously the number 2, because that's the best number ever, as you've got 2 of them up on your wall. But the best bit about it is this bit there. It's that. Look, how cool's that? That's Anfield mud.
Could have washed it before you showed it.
I know. Well, I haven't washed it. I didn't wash it. I think I'm just trying to think of. Obviously, after the game, it was wet. It was put in a bag and then brought it home. I think my mum might have just dried it in the dryer, so it doesn't smell. The smell's all gone by now. I mean, we're talking 89. I don't even know how long ago that was. 30 odd years ago. But yeah, I'm really chuffed that it's got some Anfield mud on it. So yeah, and it still fits. Before you ask,
is that before or after you breathe in or breathe out?
oh no, you have to breathe in a little bit. But it was quite. Have you obviously watched the game? It was a bit baggy on the night. So yeah, it's yeah, you can't see me.
Nope, you're not on
in the background somewhere.
So I said you could have washed that shirt before you showed it, but you know. But yeah, tell us about the 89, what you remember of it and what you enjoyed about it.
Oh god, well, that's that could be an hour-long answer. I'll try and keep it down to less than an hour. I think this season epitomised that team. I think if you were going to have a bunch of youngsters go on a roller coaster ride of a season, culminating in the best possible climax ever, then that's it. And watching '89, as you've watched it probably nearly as many times as me, it the movie, and I don't think you have to be an Arsenal fan to watch that movie. I think it probably hurts a bit if you're a Liverpool fan, but I think if you're a football fan and you go, right, there's a bunch of this manager's grabbed a bunch of youngsters together and we're going to take on the best team in Europe that's been like that for many years, and they're going to give them a run for their money, and then they're going to take them right by storm till Christmas, and then fold like a cheap suit for a load of games and throw it away, and then somehow throw in one of the worst catastrophes in British football right towards the end of the season in Hillsborough, and have the shock and deal with all of that, and then carry on the season and get to a point where you go, well, they've absolutely thrown it away and they can't, they've only got to beat Wimbledon and Derby at home and they can't even do that. And then because the game was cancelled, play their rivals on the last game of the season 2 weeks after the season had finished, and then to score in the last minute, you literally, you took that to Hollywood, they throw you out the door and say that can't happen. It's ridiculous. With a bunch of kids, it's not going to happen. So I think from that point of view, when I stand outside of playing in it and being in it, when I stand outside and watch the movie, because when I watch the movie, it's like I'm not in it. Although I can see myself, in it and I'm talking on it, but it's somehow I can separate myself and watch it as if I'm like a fan, and it gets me every time. The David Rocastle bit with Wrighty, the Hillsborough bit, how that's reported, gets me every time. I always say it's literally a three hanky movie. You cry at David Rocastle and Wrighty, you cry when they talk about Hillsborough, because I think it's brilliantly done, how you capture the actual tragedy of it and the humanity aspect of it. And then obviously, I don't think you have to be an Arsenal fan to cry at the end when Michael puts it in. Well, it's not even at the end, but the end of the game. So it is the movie or the film, the documentary, what you call it, I think epitomizes the team and epitomizes the feeling that everybody had about that. So it will never be repeated. And people have talked about, is it as good as the Aguero moment? I mean, come on. It's not even in the same ballpark, the Aguero moment. And I'm a City fan, so I enjoyed the Aguero moment, don't get me wrong, but they were playing QPR relegation, and they weren't playing. And if they'd have been playing Man United and they just scored like that, then it might have been different. But they weren't. They were playing a lesser team, and there was other stuff going on at another ground. So to actually be against your rivals and needing to win by 2 clear goals, and Liverpool didn't concede 2 goals at Anfield hardly ever, and also to get it last kick of the game virtually in that way still sends goosebumps down the spine talking about it now. It was an incredible season, and never again, I say it again, never be repeated.
I think that would be a different chat we'll do on that one. Like, I think that's quite a special one that we can chat about. But I've actually watched it for 90 times now.
90
times. I'm not even kidding.
Only you would do that, because if that's you in a nutshell, going to 90. See, if I would have stopped at 89, wouldn't that be a good place to stop?
Well, I did until I started. I'm going to watch it just one more time, just to round up.
Wow, I take it back. I thought I'd watched it. I mean, I lost count at about 30 odd, And I thought that was quite a lot. And I'm sure there's loads of people out there who've watched it more than 30 odd, but that's impressive. 90 is impressive. I
I
think that's
think
the word I'm looking for.
I think because it's just one of those. It's a DVD that I could watch over and over again, just because at the time I was 4 years old when that game was playing, so
Right.
it was just nice watching some history of Arsenal. It's just like just
Yeah.
watch it. It's just enjoyable. So
Well, he does have, it's not just about football. It's got the feeling of the time of that age. The different clips, the music. Amy Lawrence did a brilliant job with the music, picking all the music for that. She did all of that, and it really sets the mood for how people were thinking and feeling at that time. And that's why Fever Pitch, I think the film about the same event, is a brilliant film, because it's not just about football, it's about the feeling of football, about the feeling of the time, about relationships between couples, about all sorts of things. And I love Fever Pitch as a film. I think it's just a brilliant bit of cinematography, and that's got everything: the offside trap, the disappointment, and the end scenes when when the goal goes in, and the disappointment. When the goal goes in, and the fact that he nearly misses it. It was just brilliant. So yeah, I've watched it a lot, but I need to catch up. I think I might watch it tonight now.
just to catch up on with me now, is it?
Yeah.
Right, well, I'm going to end this interview. I'm going to thank you for the chat of doing this. I know you've got a lot going on at the minute. Obviously,
My pleasure.
We got the next podcast, which is on the 27th of January, where we'll be talking about all things football, quite light-hearted, cup of tea, chill out, and then maybe take the mick out of you. Maybe take the mick out of you as well a little bit.
Well, you can try.
I'll win.
Well, we'll see about
that. But if you stick around after the interview, just so we can just round things up a little bit and talk about that. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye to you on the interview, and thank you for your time.
See you, mate. Nice to speak to you.
Thank you very much.